sorry that we are a little bit late, but that happens when the software you use to put your show together completely reverts everything back to what it was when you got here in the morning after 2 hours of work. So I had to frantically put everything back, but fortunately we are there. So because of that delay, we are going to get right into our guest for the day. Today we have one of my teammates or former teammates with the Minnesota Twins, and a current media personality on SiriusXM, another colleague over there as well. Chris Gimenez is going to join us in just about 1 minute. But before we do that, this is very important. Before we do that, you guys need to know that we are so close to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I know right now we are on the Foul Territory YouTube channel. Hello, everybody. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel because it's getting very close as well. But over at Trevor May Baseball, I'm at 99,500. If we could get that today, oh my God, I'm so excited. Everybody here in the office, which is just Henry, really, really wants to get there soon because we're going to have a pizza party. So only you can help us get our pizza party. 100,000 subs has been a big goal of mine for a long time. So I am excited to get there. So please subscribe to Trevor May Baseball on YouTube if you haven't yet. Also, Foul Territory as well. Let's just get everyone to 100,000 subscribers. Why not? All right. Let's just hop right to our guest and let him move on with his life. But we got to get some of his thoughts as well. We are now joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Gimenez. Jimmy, what up, man? How you doing?
What's up, dude? How are you, man? Let's get you to as many subscribers as you need. Let's go.
Thanks. I always say it as a joke. It's not really a joke. You'll know that. But I'm always saying I need to get 100,000 subscribers so that I can get my play button and then feel good about myself again because I'm not a player anymore. You know what I mean?
No, I hear you. Trust me. Anything we can do to make ourselves feel good when we're not playing anymore, that's the key.
That's what life's all about. Thanks for taking the time, man, coming on the show. You are our second guest ever. So
wow,
you can hang your hat on that one a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
I want to get your take on a few things, especially in starting with the Cleveland Guardians, because that is a team that you do a little bit of work for and follow a little bit closely. We all have our team, right, that we watch a little bit more.
That's right.
And biggest takeaway so far from the season, we knew it was going to be a close division, and so far so good. It's a pretty close division. How you feeling about the Guardians' play so far, and how we look in maybe in repeating as division champs?
I mean, I'll start off with this. I was a little not worried. I guess worried may be a little bit of a strong word after their initial 10-game road trip to start the season. Major League Baseball, as you probably know, started them off on a 10-game road trip because they are doing stadium improvements, and that's kind of the give and take that they ask for as much time as humanly possible to get everything ready before opening day. So they started the year on a 10-game road trip, had to go to San Diego, started off in Kansas City, by the way, which their team looks pretty good. Had to go to San Diego, then Anaheim or Los Angeles for the Angels, however you want to call that. But I was a little worried, dude. After getting swept.
I was just gonna let it ride.
I haven't slept a lot, to be completely honest with you. I've been up a long time today. I just got back in from Cleveland, but yeah, after being swept in San Diego and then losing 2-3 in Anaheim, first homestand, started off last Tuesday. They came in and they swept the White Sox and dang near swept the Royals again. Have now taken 4 of 6 from Kansas City to start the season after they went 5-8 against them last year. So I think a little bit of home cooking is exactly what they needed, because this team, this last homestand, really looked like the team that I think we should expect them to be. I mean, they were very, very good from a starting rotation. Their bullpen has been fantastic. Emmanuel Clase is human, and that happens from time to time, but the offense has gotten going, and it kind of seemed like everything was starting to click. So I'm a little more optimistic, I guess you could say, about the season so far.
Yeah, I mean, we had some teams that were expected to do pretty well who started off slow. And, running into the Padres in the way they've started, not ideal. So
not ideal.
Not anyone. No one's had much fun against them so far. So you can not feel so bad about that. You just mentioned Emmanuel Clase, and it's the bullpen has been a strength of this team. It was the biggest reason, in my opinion, that they were able to do what they did last year, get through the playoffs.
For sure.
And he gave up 5 total runs last year, but he's already given up 6 this year. What's the level of concern for Emmanuel? And what do you think? What do you think's been the issue this far?
Yeah. So I think that's a great question, because after you give up 5 runs in an entire season, you kind of, and to his credit, to be honest with you, he has set the standard so ungodly high that we look at the start to his season this year as like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Like, if you look back, yes, he's given up some runs. There's no denying that. But what I've seen is the league make a little bit of an adjustment on him. You know, he's a strike thrower. Even though he throws 100-mile-an-hour cutters with a decent slider, he pounds the strike zone. And I think you've seen teams really start to be very aggressive against him and attack early. Like, he's been in the strike zone, in the heart of the strike zone in particular, really early in counts. And I think that's hurt him. You know, he came in a non-save situation the other night, Saturday night, actually, against Kansas City, ended up giving up just 1 run, but gave up 4 consecutive hits. Like, some guys hit the ball pretty hard, but everything was literally right in the heart of the plate. And he didn't do a great job of mixing in his slider early on in counts. And I think he came out after the game and said, this is kind of the end all be all for me. Like, I need to start doing this. This has been something that they've been talking about, and I just haven't necessarily felt like I needed to do it yet. So I'm not concerned at all, because honestly, he set the standard so unbelievably high that, like, when you give up 7 runs, I mean, every reliever in baseball should at least give up 7 runs a year. The fact that he only gave up 5 runs last year is so absolutely absurd that, you know, now the fact that he's given up 7 in the first 2.5, 3 weeks of the season, like, I get it. I totally understand it, but I'm not concerned at all. I think there will be some adjustments made. You know, if he was throwing like 94 and not 99, I would maybe be a little bit more concerned, but the stuff is coming out of his hand as good as it ever has, arguably harder, which could maybe have a little bit to do with this too, but he really has just been kind of in the heart of the plate, challenging the strike zone, and I think we'll see a little bit of an adjustment from here on out.
Yeah, it seems like it's just an execution issue, not a stuff issue that is definitely fixable. And usually when guys go through rough patches, I mean, when relievers you give up a little handful of runs, and you got to like get that ERA down. It usually takes a lot
then you got
longer.
to battle for the rest of the year.
Yeah. But you know, he's a pro. I mean, I'm sure he's not super worried about it. And if you're still throwing 100, then there's still stuff in the tank. It's just interesting. I'm interested to see if there's, like, you know, it's a pitching factory over there. If some sinker appears, or a splinker or something, he just like tries to throw. Everyone's throwing splinkers. Everybody.
He has been working on a sinker. I mean, I don't know if he has thrown any in the game yet. I'd have to double check that, but he did talk about it in his post-game press conference on Saturday night, that he said he feels comfortable enough to be able to throw that pitch in a game. I kind of took that as, I haven't thrown one yet, but you're going to start seeing some of these. And honestly, it's kind of nice, because you're right. Cleveland has really been a pitching factory, and in particular the last couple of years with the bullpen. Jacob Gimenez and Paul Sewald have been fantastic to start the year as well. So it's really helped pick up the slack. And you've seen, you know, to have 4 guys in your bullpen that had below a 2 ERA last year in 70 innings is absolute insanity. And I think you add 2 more guys that are very, very capable guys. One of them's been a closer for a long time. The other one's got nasty stuff that really lengthen out that bullpen. I think we will continue to see that be a strength for them, no matter what Clase does.
Yeah, I agree with that. They got guys who threw lots of bullets last year, but they were all rookies, so they at least got a couple more years.
Yeah, they're good.
They'll be fine. Okay, just a couple more for you before I let you go. I want to. I was supposed to actually do a little opening monologue talking a little bit about that Mike Trout non-interference call. Though I do like how that whole situation ended.
For sure.
It bodes the question, because in the World Series there was like 3 times where it was close, like where there could have very clearly been a fan interfering with a big play, and it's coming up more. I feel like it's coming up more and more. So I want to get your take. What was your immediate reaction to seeing that, did you have flashbacks to the Mookie Betts thing, or was this just one of those things like any fan would go for the ball? Like that's kind of the point of most people going to games. What was your take?
You know what? Honestly, like it was a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I felt it was a little aggressive at the onset, not understanding that the gentleman had his little son sitting right there and apparently was trying to protect his son. I felt like that was maybe a slight aggressive to be in protect mode. I get the Papa Bear thing here, but he legit reached into Trout's glove and took the ball out. And it definitely gave me vibes of, Mookie Betts in the World Series last year in New York. And we saw what happened to the two fans that were sitting there. And I mean, obviously that was fairly egregious and really, truly should never really happen. I mean, I'm all for trying to interfere with the dude as, if you hit his glove or you're trying to get in the way of him, like I get that. But to legit open his glove up and rip the ball out, I think that's maybe going slightly too far. But I think the key to this whole thing is Mike Trout, truthfully, and how he ultimately handled this situation. Like you talk about as pro gets, inviting the dad and the son after he realized they had to be relocated, which we get that part, but inviting them underneath, signing stuff, talking to them, like you talk about just being an absolute pro. Like that is one of the coolest, nicest things to do. Didn't have to do that. And truthfully, honestly, I thought they got the call wrong on the field because I'm pretty sure Mike Trout caught that ball and they took the ball out of his glove, but they again said he didn't. And I get it. The batter popped out the next pitch, so it wasn't a big deal. No harm, no foul. But kudos to Mike Trout, man. That's why you need to be the face of this league because not many people would do something like that. And it just shows the kindness in his heart.
Yeah, I was. We have enough, getting frustrated or angry or raging about everything all the time. It's nice to feel, hey, misunderstanding, and I understand where you're coming from, fan. Like it's exciting when a ball comes close, especially when I'm close to you too. Like it goes from 0 to 100 real quick, and not everyone could just handle that. Okay, last one for me, and I want your opinion because I'm gonna have my own take here in a moment, but I want to build on yours and see what you have. Is there anything, because I understand why fans are straight up against the wall. Like it's part of the experience, right? Where else what other sport can you get equipment from the game,
right?
To come to you? Like there's very few. If you're going to a hockey game hoping for a puck, you might see one every couple games,
right?
So it doesn't happen often. So, but at the same time, like we have what if that call is a catch and then the next guy it's a home run, like, and it's in the playoffs, like that. We're all worried about robombs. We're so worried about robombs. This one's seems pretty simple. So I have an idea for maybe something they could keep, maybe lower the incentive of like leaning over. But I want your take. What do you think is like one small thing we could do to maybe avoid all this happening without taking away too much from the fan experience?
I know that's the hard part because this is kind of a sticky situation. You go back to that Mookie Betts play in New York last year in the World Series. Those two guys were immediate fan favorites with everybody in that crowd until they got kicked out of the game and supposedly are like suspended for life. Like that's where it's like, okay, I mean, do we throw a suspension out there saying you can't come back to a game for a year, for a month, for life? Like we definitely don't want to take that experience away from the fans. But I think at the same time, when you have a guy literally opening up and ripping open Mookie's glove and holding his hand there with his glove and taking the ball out, to me, that's to the point where I'm like, okay, there should be some punishment, but I don't want that to take away from the fan experience of the fact that, like we were just talking about, if you got a fan that's trying to interfere with a player, as long as he's not reaching in the field to play, it's fair game, in my opinion, right? Like bring your gloves, like try to rob that thing from somebody like Mike Trout right there, because you're only doing your team a solid unless, it's the opposing team hitting, and then you might get yelled at, and we got a Cubs situation from the 90s, and that's not good, right?
No one wants that.
Nobody wants that.
No.
But yeah, I think it's a tough situation because again, you want the fan to be as close as possible and to have that experience, but there also needs to be, maybe a hard line set of rules that says, listen, if you go after a player or hold his glove or rip it open and try to rip
contact on purpose.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. If you're initiating contact on purpose, there's going to be some sort of consequence.
Yeah, and I think that kind of varies park to park. Some places
Right.
handle it more like even Yankee Stadium's one of the more aggressive ones for fans.
Sure.
If you do one thing out of line there, especially in the bleachers, those guys get you out there immediately.
You got 'em.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've thought about maybe there's a standardized like short gap to where you have to like really lean in order to get in
Right.
their way, but you can still
Right.
like involve. It's just hard to
involved,
do
yeah.
that, right?
Now you're talking about redesigning, like
But that
you
exactly.
may have to take away seats, and I mean that's
Exactly.
obviously
And they'll
a
never
bigger
do that
deal
because they want to jam as
the
many people in
owners.
these stadiums as possible.
Exactly. The owners wouldn't like that.
Well, it is. I'm sure it'll be an ongoing conversation. This probably is
For
not
sure.
the last time we saw this. Chris Gimenez, thank you so much for joining us, man. Especially getting right off a plane and go get some sleep. Go get some
Anything
sleep,
for
get
you,
some
dude.
rest, man.
Anything for you.
I appreciate
Anytime
it.
you need me, bud.
Until next time, man. I will. Thank you so much. That is Chris Gimenez, everybody. Jimmy is a legend. Always is. All right, guys. Now this is backwards. We're going a little bit flippy floppy, but I do want to talk a little bit more about this Mike Trout situation with the ball being more or less pulled out of his glove. Now, if you watch it, I don't know if you guys have seen it like in slow motion, but it does seem like the ball was taken out of his glove. Though it does seem like the guy's hand kind of goes into the glove with the ball. So it's like, it's hard to, he didn't like do it after the fact. So in his defense, and this is in the stands, this is not like they're reaching out. This is a weird thing though. Like this stuff is happening at a ridiculous rate. This has come up for me a few times, and I wanted to talk about this before, and I was just waiting for another situation to happen. So now we have it. You guys have may remember, or actually, this also happened a couple days ago in Tampa, where we had a notorious ball hawk, Zach Campbell. YouTube, if anyone doesn't know who Zach Campbell is, you are not a true baseball connoisseur. This man has thousands of balls, and he caught this ball over Morel, who, you know, more or less people thought he could have robbed it, but you can't rob it when someone grabs it before you. Now, I don't think he would have caught it, but this happened. People were mad at him. People like to get mad at him a lot for this stuff anyway, so I think this is just a perfect storm. But again, it like, what if it is 6 inches closer, and what if you just catch it over him? Even if you don't interfere with him, you just take it from him. Don't you guys want to see the robbed home run? Don't we want to see the play happen, not take it away from him? So this happened again just a couple days ago. And then we had the one in New York in the World Series. This is Mookie Betts. Now, this is a little different. This gentleman, too, reaches over and grabs his wrist to hold him there, and this guy's trying to pull the ball out of his glove. This was egregious. This was done on purpose, but it's almost the exact same play. And this is in the World Series. Like, who knows? They don't call anything, and then a homer's hit, and then the game's changed. Like, now we're having games completely changed by people making bad decisions. In that same series, this is 4 examples. This was a home run hit by Gleyber Torres in Dodger Stadium. This was a fan. They were looking at whether or not he reached over and it would have been a double. Now, this one was going to be robbed, but it might have been a double or a home run. It probably would have been a home run. It turned out to be a non-issue. And honestly, this guy was like trying to make a decision if he wanted to go for the ball. So I will give him credit too. But because you're that close to the wall, you know, these guys aren't pro athletes. They can't tell, right? They don't know. So it takes one little mistake to take away a big play from a pitcher or a hitter. And when this happened, I got a text message from my English brother-in-law. So Richard is from Sheffield, England, and he goes, how does this keep happening? How does fan interference keep happening? Why do they let him be so close? I'm like, that's a very good point. He goes, it's ridiculous. It could have a huge impact on the game. This is a European guy who doesn't watch that much baseball and trying to learn and wants to understand why fans are so close to the field. And I can't help but agree. I'm like, I don't really know why. So there are a couple reasons why this happens and why we maintain the way this is put together. All right. First of all, it's the fan experience. All right. It's so prevalent just because fans are against the wall. Like then they have been for a long time. This is an older picture. Like, look at all these people are all leaning. They're all leaning over the wall. Like legitimately leaning over the wall. This is a little bit of a madhouse, and we see he's got to jump up there to try to grab it out of the stands for a home run. So the big problem is it's just fans are too close to the park. If we wanted to not have them do this, we would need to move them away. Like Chris just mentioned in our interview earlier, what are we gonna do? We're gonna move all of the fences in the whole field in, or we're gonna take one row of seats out around the whole park? Like, what are we gonna do? How can we standardize this stuff? And they don't want to do that for a bunch of reasons. One, I just mentioned, there's a bunch of resources involved with that. But then there's two. It's part of the fan experience. There is no other sport where you can count on a piece of equipment that's being used in the game to come into the stands at any given point. Right? Like, that's why we see grown men, grown adults wearing their gloves that they haven't used since they were 15 up in the stands, which I love. I'm not throwing any shade here. You don't get to wear your glove often. So go crazy with it. But like that's a huge part of why people go to games. So you don't want to reduce their ability to do that more than we already have, because we've already expanded the nets. So a couple years ago, we've had a lot of injuries with line drives going in the stands. Totally understandable. But a lot of parks have extended their nets so far down the lines that less and less people are going to have the opportunity to get a foul ball. Now, is the trade-off between getting a 98-mile-an-hour line drive at you and getting a ball? You probably take the not getting a ball at all option there. But with the nets already being expanded for fan safety, they're not going to reduce the number of foul balls that foul balls or even home runs that fans can get even further than they already did with this change. So because of that it'll never happen. Also, the fans are way up there because they want to get as many fans into a stadium as possible. If you could sell 1,000 more seats, you're going to sell 1,000 more seats. So I had an option. I had an idea. I just mentioned it with Chris. I'm going to mention it again here. What if, I'm going to leave that up. What if we created that gap? What if they created a standardized gap where the fans can't be 12, there's a 12-inch gap all the way around, meaning there's a 12-inch buffer that a fan's body can't be in front of. You can reach over it, but you can't be closer than that. That 12-inch might give a little bit more of a buffer for the player to make a play, and also a fan to make a decision whether or not they want to try to catch it or not. Now, would it reduce it a little bit? Yeah. But would it kind of probably alleviate the vast majority of the situations? Probably. Will it happen? No, because it's going to take resources. And I just genuinely don't believe that is something that they're going to do. So I don't think we'll ever see a change, or at least until it gets really big. I think it would take some sort of massive play in the World Series or something to make us change our mind here and make the league address this. But there was a silver lining at the end. Mike Trout did meet that fan who was apologetic right away. If you watch it in slow motion, you can tell him, you can see him realize that, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble. But this is great reporting from Rhett Bollinger. Shout out to Rhett, ex-Twins beat writer. Love that guy. And he posted this picture of Mike Trout meeting them after the game. There is audio. He says, hey, man, the way you guys reacted to that was awesome. That's exactly the way we want. Because they were like, hey, I'm so sorry. He tried to give him the ball back. It's actually kind of endearing. And he was just like, that was the right way to do it. Stuff happens. We just, like, the play didn't get made, and it is whatever. And there's enough negativity in the world these days that just brought a little fuzziness into this big guy's soul. So just wanted to share that. That is the way he is. This guy's a consummate professional, and I am very proud to be a part of a group of players that played at the same time with Mike Trout. For sure. So what do you think? I want to know. Let me know in the comments and wherever you can comment if you're listening to this in the podcast form or wherever. I want to know what you think. And also in the chat, if you're in the chat, obviously. I'm going to make sure my chat stops scrolling up. I don't know why this is happening over and over and over again. This is just infuriating. Okay. Moving on. Let's move on. We got a couple housekeeping things before we move on. Once again, Mayday. This show is a podcast. Go subscribe to it anywhere you listen to podcasts. And also Cut on the Diamond. Brand new episodes are now coming out once again. We sit down with players. We talk for an hour just about ball. Tell stories from our childhoods, who we played against, who we played with, and the things we learned along the way. New episode with Trevor Plouffe comes out this Wednesday. And last week was Kendall Graveman, which was a great episode. And I got a bunch of more people lined up in the future. So thank you so much for doing that, wherever you listen to your podcast. Let's get into the news. And not just any news. Well, I'll just let the intro tell you. All right, let's get into some heckin' news. Quite a few things happened here going into the final week of spring training as we get ready. News. I'm going to try to develop my skill at getting quickly through these things and just hitting them. All right?
Let's get into the news.
Let's do it. Let's get in the news. Other Trevor? Absolutely, boys and girls. Absolutely. All righty. Bringing the chat back up. Garrett Crochet flirted with a perfecto yesterday, taking a perfect game into the 8th inning, but eventually lost it on a pitch to a man named Chase Mydroth, who just so happened to get traded to the White Sox for Garrett Crochet. So to go to your old team, almost throw a perfect game, but then get it spoiled by the guy you got traded for, sad. That's just a sad thing. Sad day. But he threw 96 pitches, 65 for strikes. He was absolutely dominant. Struck out 11. I was watching it live. It was an impressive thing. We're going to talk a little bit about Garrett Crochet in our next segment because he's got some interesting things going on, and I am now a bigger fan somehow of his contract extension. So little teaser for there. Speaking of absolutely dominant performances, my guy Joe Boyle gets his first start of the year for the Tampa Bay Rays of Tampa, and he has a no-hitter going into the 6th inning. The guy had his big time fastball, high 90s. This guy was traded. He was I mentioned this earlier in this show, earlier before the season started, before spring started, that I was a big fan of the Rays going and getting this guy. He is very similar to Tyler Glasnow, and he was in the Jeffrey Springs trade from Oakland to the Rays. So I actually got to play with Joe for three-ish weeks, and he does have electric stuff. Runs it up to 102 on a good day. It's just about command for this man, and we saw what he can do when he has a little bit of command. He had that slider on point at about 90 miles an hour, was throwing high 90s, and had something called a sinker on TV, but it's a splinker at about 93, 94, and guys were getting absolutely buckled by it. He looked really good, but the wheels started to fall off a little bit in the 6th. Mason Montgomery came in and got hit around a little bit, gave up a couple runs, but they ended up winning the game 8-3 in George M. Steinbrenner Field. More good performances. Michael King, complete game shutout. Capping off a 3-game shutout of the Colorado Rockies with the 2 hits. I believe he gave up 2 hits and had 7 strikeouts for his first career complete game. The San Diego Padres gave up 0 runs and only 9 hits. 9 hits in 27 innings. Yikes. Colorado is coming off of back-to-back 100-loss seasons. And it's not looking good for avoiding that again. So hopefully they pick it up a little bit. But then we're not talking about them. We're talking about Michael King. He looked amazing. We're going to see him again later in the show. It was quite the dominant performance, and he is going to be one of the bright lights for a very good San Diego Padres team moving forward in the season. Oh. Jung Lee homers twice in the Bronx off Carlos Rodon, and the Giants rally from a 3-run deficit in the 9th inning to, I don't believe it was all in the 9th. Was it? I think it was. To beat the Yankees 5-4, Jung Lee has come out hot here in the season, being the best hitter on this team. He has been very productive, and he looks good, but that is his first career multi-homer game. San Francisco's won 9 of the last 12 games, and they are currently in 2nd place in the NL West, behind the Padres. So, where are the Dodgers? Interesting question. Aaron Judge, the captain, is now the captain of the USA team. That is right. WBC is going to be led by the man, the myth, the legend, Aaron Judge. I'm excited he's playing. He's a scary dude, and the world knows about him. He's probably the 2nd most recognizable baseball player in the world right now. So having him is going to be awesome. He was pumped about it. I believe I have a nice little quote here from him. It says, "I want to be there," Judge said earlier today on MLB Network, adding that he felt wrong watching Team USA last tournament instead of being a part of the roster. "I was looking forward to this opportunity again." That's what I'm talking about, Judge. Rep us, man. Rep us. Go out there and hit like 17 bombs. I don't know. This guy's got a 1,200 OPS for like the last 5 years. I don't know what to tell you. We need the best hitters, and he is the best hitter. So, Aaron Judge, leading the team. And not so great news, Justin Steele needs surgery on his elbow. The Cubs are off to a great start, but this is a big blow for their future prospects of winning that division, a division that is wide open. That is the NL Central. Justin Steele was my pick to be up there in top 10 for the Cy Young. The guy is just a workhorse and just throws innings and gets people out and does it quickly. And he's always fun to watch. But now we have a lot more resting on the shoulders of Jamison Taillon, of Brown, and our other guys. Punching tickets. They just losing him is a big blow for the Cubs, but they just finished off a good series against the Dodgers. So hate to see this for anybody. It is his second Tommy John, but the surgery is figured out, and I think they're going to be okay. But it's not what you want to see. How about a guy who's hot like fire? Kyle Paris has come out hot this year. He is slashing 368, 467, and 842 with 5 home runs and 5 stolen bases here at the outset of the season. He came into the season with 1 major league home run, and he is 1 home run behind Mike Trout for his team lead on an Angels team that has played much better than anyone could have anticipated. But he attributes a lot of his success to a swing change that if you watch it in slow motion, may blow your mind a little bit. He swings like Aaron Judge now. This offseason, he went to a gentleman named Richard Richard Schenk, who is Aaron Judge's hitting instructor, also known around the internet either infamously or famously as Teacher Man. He's got a very specific way of teaching hitting. He is feels very strongly about this way of hitting, but I think Paris is one of the guys who fits in that mold with that swing. He went oppo twice in Tampa. Those 2 home runs were his first ever oppo. So if that tells you anything, that's good. Though he is not 6'7", 270 pounds, this 5'11", 180 guy can still get the ball over the fence. So it's nice to see him. I love when guys make little adjustments and then see huge results. They find their thing that might produce a good career. So good for Paris. He is raking. In even happier news, this is one of my favorite things. The Dodgers the other day got beat 16-0. Roki Sasaki started, gave up 1 run in 5 innings, and then the bullpen proceeded to give up 15 runs over the next 4 innings. The worst home loss in the history of the Dodgers, a very long storied franchise. But we did get one silver lining, and that is Miguel Rojas pitched. Sure, he got hit around. Did he give up 5 runs? I think he did, yes. But he did throw 2 innings, so he's an innings eater. Big shout out. Not a lot of relievers can throw 2 innings, so at least we'll give him that. But he did have a little bit of fun impersonating the pitchers on his team. And I want you guys to see these side by side and let me know if he nailed them, because I think he did. First up, we have Yamamoto. He's close. I think this was pretty solid, but I want to know what you think. Pretty good? No? All right. Let's see that one again. I want to see the Yamamoto one again. Beautiful. Now, the leg kick, not quite high enough, in my opinion. Not quite high enough. Could have went higher with it. But I did like the spirit. Then he did the rook, landed Knack. Now, one thing I got to say about Knack, very interesting lean. The lean is beautiful. Hands could be better, but the lean is beautiful. Let's see how he nails this one. Knack not too happy about that call either. So Landon Knack got his. I mean, he's just a rookie, excited to be part of it. And then we got Rojas pulling the legend of Kershaw. Let's see what he's got for the Kershaw here. Here we go. Oh my God. Play it. There we go. I flipped it around for you. There we go. Beautiful. Now that was about an A+ in my opinion. A+. One more time. One more time. Let's see it one more time. Nope. 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 Wow. This is a new piece of equipment. I'm really excited about it. Oh my God. This is crazy. One more time. There we go. Beautiful. Nailed it. All right, moving on. Then we got Roki Sasaki. Then we got Roki Sasaki. What is going on? Please. There we go. Roki Sasaki. Nailed it. It's literally skipping Roki every single time. I don't know what's going on, bro. There we go. Roki. I thought the Roki one was the best one, though. Roki doesn't go that low. I think he could have. He did a pretty good job with that. So, big fan of that. Actually, hilariously, this is my favorite part. This is the post from MLB's Instagram last night. They said Miguel Rojas imitates his teammates. Now, if you can see right here at the bottom, there's only 4 dots of videos. And you might see my comment. In this video, it only shows the Yama one, it only shows the Roki one, and it shows the Kershaw one. And Knack didn't get a video. So he did 4 impressions, and they only showed 3 of them because you know what? Ain't no one knows who Landon Knack is. Get your service time up, playa. Sorry, Knack. You need more service time. Welcome to being a reliever. That's our life. All right. Last thing. Ken Griffey Jr., he's a photographer. Joining his ex-teammate Randy Johnson, he's now professionally photographizing. Recently doing the Masters. I mean, can you imagine teeing off, looking over, seeing Ken Griffey Jr.? I couldn't. He's got that nice 200 to 600 millimeter lens. I got one too. That's pretty cool though. His is nicer. That looks like the Sony version. Anywho, it's something he loved to do when he was playing. He did it with his kids. He took photos of like everywhere he went and the things he did. So it is just interesting that a couple of my favorite Mariners of all time are also photographers these days. So just a cool little thing. It's awesome when guys find something fun to do when they retire from the game. All right, let's move on. It's time for a little bit of May-splaining, and I got to tell you, this one was fun. Mr. Trevor May, that's me, got to be an investigative journalist for the first time since starting to do this job full-time, okay? Something was brought to my attention recently on Discord, and it's that a lot of pitchers' arm angles have dropped, and they are pitchers that are young studs for their teams. Namely, so I'll show you what I mean. My guy Branch Terminal posted this tweet in the Discord recently, and it's like, hey, I know this was after 1 start, so hey, I know it's been 1 start, but is any of this stuff significant? And arm angle rising and arm angles falling happen for different reasons, usually. So usually it's attributed to certain things. Usually arm angles dropping can be a sign of something is wrong, a concern of injury, or fatigue. Like you don't raise your arm up if you're getting tired or you're hurt. You raise your arm up when you're trying to feel something with the ball. You're trying to be on top of it or whatever. So like usually arms raising are some sort of mechanical change, and arms lowering could be something else that might be more concerning. So usually I just pay attention to this because this could mean all kinds of stuff. And this was after 1 major league start. So this is like opening day for all these guys. We got Luzardo, Kikuchi. We got Skeens, Reagans, and Crochet. So this is 3 young dudes who are all aces for their teams that we, as a baseball whole, believe have a good opportunity to be in the Cy Young case. So what I actually care about is right here, the arm angle fallers, and those are significant numbers, okay? So at first I was like, okay, it's the first start of the year, okay? So things are a little bit wonky. You're going up maybe to some colder weather. That changes things a little bit. You're trying to grip the ball a little bit. You're trying to get the ball to spin differently. Or in Crochet's case, he threw a ton of cutters. When you're throwing cutters, you're trying to get inside the ball a little bit. And your muscle memory is not quite there to throwing a full speed. Also, there's adrenaline. There's all kinds of things happening because it's exciting. It's opening day. And it's just a culture shock in a lot of different ways. So sometimes that stuff factors in. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a couple weeks. We'll see if this stuff kind of evens out. And then if it's even a thing or not. But then something else happened. All right. I was just watching MLB Network one day, and Jake Peavy was up mentioning that Paul Skeens' arm angles has changed a little bit, but they weren't explaining it from his arm angle's going down. What's wrong with him? They were explaining it from he's added 2 new pitches. We talked ad nauseum about this. He added a sinker and a cutter, and all of his arm angles have kind of melded to be about the same for every pitch. Before he had some variation depending on what pitches you want to throw. So they saw maybe those angles were converging in order to get some tunneling better, or maybe that's something cleaned up in the offseason. What they didn't mention was the fact that all the numbers were low. Like, yes, they converged, but they all went down. Everything went down. So it's like, where did I go? I just disappeared. Hello? Hold? All right, we're pausing. Wow. Stand by. I have no idea. Thank you for your patience. I have no idea. The camera just turned off. Then I flipped the switch and turned right back on. I have no idea what happened. I apologize for that. That's one of those weird things. Okay, back to what we were saying. Cut that out. Sometimes you just got to roll with the punches. Today has been a roll with the punches type of day. Okay, so all of his angles had dropped. All of them dropped. Not just his fastball, okay? Then, literally that same day, about an hour later, I am scrolling Instagram, and this post pops up from the Velo University on Instagram. Shout out to them for doing this. The lower the slot, the lower the risk. And I was like, what does that mean? Now, there was some more down here in the bottom. It was more technical stuff. But what it did was mention a study that had been released in March that says the lower you drop your arm, the less stress you put on your joints, on your elbow, and on your shoulder. And I was like, So that bodes the question, are these young guys doing this on purpose? Is this the new thing that pitchers are going to be doing? And what I did was I went and actually got that study. I downloaded it. It's public. Actually, I will include the links to these studies in the video that this is going to be eventually. And there's 2 studies that I actually found after following this first one. So let's talk about, the first one was about the arm angles, but the second one was about just generally what mechanical differences make guys healthier. And then I wanted to see, are these guys doing any of this stuff is this information that they got very recently that they have implemented into their game, because all three of them, the big three, I'll talk about Crochet, we'll talk about Reagan's, and we'll talk about Skeens, they all want to throw more innings. They've all said that explicitly in public. They want to be aces. They want to go for that 200 innings. They want to be the guy that takes the ball game 1 going into October. That's who they want to be. And they all throw hard. And in order to stay healthy, you need to have cleaned up mechanics. And Crochet and Reagan specifically have struggled with injuries in the past where they missed significant amounts of time. Crochet's got the highest ever pay for a guy with as little innings as he had because he was hurt so much. So these guys want to stay healthy. Maybe they're making some of these changes. So let's talk a little bit about the studies. All right. Study number 1 was from Tomek McCutcheon, Jonathan Slowick, and Glenn Feisig. Okay. It was called Mechanical Changes to Help Pitchers Stay Healthy. It was released in February. So this one was actually released first. And it did a bunch of things, but it gets a little complicated. So I'm going to make it I'll tell you in layman's terms as much as I can. This research looks at how different parts of the pitcher's motion, like your trunk tilt, your elbow bend, and your shoulder position, affect the amount of torque or stress on the elbow, which is closely linked to Tommy John. So their goal was, how do these different factors increase or decrease your chance of needing Tommy John eventually? That's a big question that a lot of people in this game are asking these days, right? And here's how they did it, okay? They took a sample size of over 400 pro and college pitchers, 500 actually. That's a big sample size. Basically, pitchers that had kinematics or data on them. There's a thing in Major League stadiums called Hawkeye. I use Simi. There's a bunch of different ones, right? And what it does, Kinetrax is another one. What it does is it like mocaps your body in real time and gets a bunch of data points on how your body's moving when you're on the mound. And it knows everything about everybody, all the swings. It keeps track of everyone. It's a little creepy if you think about it, but there's a lot of data out there now. A lot of college parks have it now too. So there's a bunch of publicly, or at least privately, they can collect this data from these teams in the spirit of doing this research, and they successfully found some stuff. They measured 21 different ways you move, from swinging your arm and where you are in different points of time and where everything's flexed and extended or whatever. And they used 21 points to find out as much as they could. 11 specific parts of delivery explain 40% of the stress on your elbow, which could be the difference between Tommy John and not Tommy John, okay? The harder you threw, the more, here's what they came up with. Harder you throw, the more stress in your arm. Duh, all right? More shoulder abduction at foot contact. Basically, the higher your arm is when your foot hits the ground, the more likely you are to put more stress in your elbow. The more elbow flexion at foot contact, the more your arm is bent back when your foot hits the ground. That was something I struggled with, right? Yes, you might throw harder, but you are also in danger of getting hurt. Faster knee extension. When your foot hits the ground, how quickly do you push forward? And then your arm has to follow it. Elbow extension. How quickly are you extending your arm? Another thing that you can't really avoid as a pitcher. And more trunk tilt towards your glove. So the more you lean this way, raises your arm up. So you're getting both. You're raising your arm up and you're creating trunk tilt, which creates more torque as well. So that hurts you. The more you turn sideways like this, the more your elbow hurts. That's something that I can also attest to. I did do that quite a bit. So they basically said the higher your arm goes, the more you might get hurt, but we don't know how much. So then we had our second study. The second one was done out of Korea, it seems like. Arm slot angles affect elbow, shoulder joint, torque, and elite and college pitchers. Now, they only used a sample size of 70 people, but they wanted to know how much arm angle affects you. So I'm going to lean this way. How much this changes the stress on your elbow and on your shoulder, okay? They wanted to actually like quantify and give you numbers. That if you drop it 10 degrees, you'll get this much. What they came up with, that for every 10 degrees it drops, you get 5% less torque on your elbow. That is a lot. And that is wildly interesting. So, that doesn't mean you just drop your elbow, right? And that doesn't mean it actually means you drop it like this. It means maybe you stand up taller or whatever. A lot of things can affect your arm angle. But you also get to a point where once you get to sidearm, so like when you're straight out like this, I'll go left-handed. When you're straight out like this is considered 0 degrees. Below this is when velocity starts to disappear. For example, the hardest pitch ever thrown under 0 degrees is by Tim Hill, and it's 91.4 miles an hour. That's the hardest pitch ever thrown under 0. That's crazy. I didn't know Tim Hill had a record either, but that's crazy. So, but in here, you can get a little bit less stress by finding your neutral, where you are neutrally, where's the most neutral place your shoulder can be positioned in order to be healthy. Okay. And they found this, and it's really, really well cited. All kinds of stuff went into this. They measured a lot of those same points in space that the original one did, and they found, oh yeah, like let's look at how much the torque actually has changed by our guesstimates and by our equation, and it was the 5%. So if you take these two things into account, there are some places you can look mechanically to see if you are improving. Now let's look at those three guys and see what they're actually doing that is making their shoulder or their arm angle drop, and if they're doing it on purpose. So this is Garrett Crochet. This is 2024. He was 38 degrees, and now he's at 31 degrees, okay? I know based on the little guy, it doesn't look that difference, but here's a little overlay. He is the most egregiously changed. Here's why his arm has actually dropped. So here's him from this year, and here's him from last year. You see that trunk tilt? This guy was sideways, and that puts his arm way up there. This is well over 7 degrees, I'll be honest, but like that's a huge difference. So it seems like trunk tilt is the thing that he was worried about in keeping himself healthy. It's funny, if you really look at his arm in relation to his body, it's pretty similar. So if he were standing up at the same angle, the arm angle would be fairly similar. But in the top one, the old one too, his wrist is flexed in like this a little bit. And this other one, he is very neutral. It's all straight. This looks very smooth. This change would be something that Andrew Bailey would say, hey, do you want to stay healthy and you want to throw 200 innings? This is the way to do it. And maybe these changes are the reason that the Red Sox are like, we're going to take a chance on this guy because we think he's going to stay healthy because he made some meaningful changes in his arm angle. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. That combined with him throwing more cutters, he's making better decisions, and he's throwing better pitches and strikes. So this has allowed him to do all kinds of stuff. He's more efficient, and he's just as powerful as he was before. But with these new mechanics, with these improved mechanics, stepping across his body, staying over his front leg, staying a little taller, like more upright, not taller, more upright and not tilting as much, can take more stress off his elbow and maybe avoid those elbow injuries moving forward into the future. But what about Paul Skeens? Paul Skeens was 23 degrees last year. He's 18 this year. That's a drop of 8 or 5 degrees. I noticed it when watching him. I'm like, that's lower. Here's his overlay. He's slightly taller. See, he tilted a little bit last year. That little outline is him in the background. This one's him this year. He's much more upright, and his angle has naturally dropped. He's not trying to drop his arm. His angle has naturally dropped. So I believe that it's the tilt that guys are fixing in order to save their arms, and that this study is something that these guys are being told by their teams or maybe by the academies that they work with in the offseason. So we also have Cole Reagans. Cole Reagans was really high. Look how much tilt there is there. And now he's at 39. You can't really see it that much here, but his arm and his shoulder is slightly more upright. Slightly. So he's made a slighter change, and he has actually got more extension too, which has dropped him a little bit as well. But this guy dropped. Again, you can see his wrist it's stuck in. Now it's more neutral. So the combination of the looser wrist plus the taller, more upright, better trunk tilt forward is taking stress off these guys' elbows, and we might see them pitch deeper into games. They have better efficiency, and they're throwing just as hard, and they all want to throw an inning. So I would pay attention to this stuff. When you see an arm dropping, see what happens with the hips and the upper body. Especially if you have kids that are learning how to pitch and want to keep their elbow healthy, it seems like there is very, very compelling data that tells us that these are the changes that are going to keep you healthiest the longest. And I I think it's incredible. I think it's incredible. And I wouldn't have found this had Instagram not fed it to me, which I also find really interesting. So, what do you think? Do you think these guys stay healthy? I'm confident now. I just, after reading all this stuff, and it was a little dense, I needed a little bit of help. But, interesting nonetheless. So, that is May-splaining. That is why arm angles seem to be lowering and staying low. So, Branch, if you're here, that's why. That's why. Tart asked a question we can hit real quick on the stream if I can get my mouse to go over here. What would you say the college pitcher Ninja interviewed? Are we talking about the guy who was like this? That guy is going to get hurt if that's who we're talking about. I believe that is who you're talking about. There is a pitcher who is almost got his arm so far up over his head that it's negative. That is not going to be sustainable. He is going to hurt himself probably. That's just the way it is. A guy who really actually protected his arm but not his lower body was Tim Lincecum. He was a prime example of mega tilt in order to generate the power he had. And what actually ended up happening was his hips went. So parts are going to wear out if they're not working efficiently. It's all about extension versus contraction. If you can stay in your range of motion more often with the maximized power, the more healthy you're going to stay. That's just the way that it works. That's the way that it works, and that's why Lincecum's career wasn't quite as long as a lot of people would have liked to see for sure. All right. That is May-splaining. We are going to get into going deep, but we are about to swap over to the Trevor May Baseball channel. Before we do that, I'm going to do the little intro, and then you're going to have to follow us over. If you're on the Foul Territory channel right now and you want to see us, we're going to be over in Trevor May Baseball in about 3 minutes. But I do want to show all y'all this. I want to show you guys this this intro because I'm proud of it. I made it myself. I've been making little trailers for these guys, so this is going deep. Today, we're going to go into Mackenzie Gore. He had, as you guys know, he struck out 13 in his first outing this year. He seems like he's even better than he was last year. He's been getting better every year, but it looks like he's getting closer, and we're going to do a little bit of a breakdown on, is he the real deal? We got a real ace in the making here, or is it a flash in the pan and it was just that first day that looked good? Because he has come down to earth a little bit. I do want to talk about it in a moment, but before we do that, I want to leave you guys with this little Mackenzie Gore trailer that I made for him.
And it goes a little something like this.
And there you have it. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, pretty cool. So we're going to talk about Mackenzie Gore in just a moment after a quick break so that I can swap over. Thank you, everyone, from Foul Territory. We'll see you over on Trevor May Baseball. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel before you leave, though, because we're all trying to get to 100K. It is 100K on YouTube season. All right? All right, we'll be right back with more Mayday.